let's talk about what we need to do to get all the software up and running. So we're going to start off with Visual Studio Code, and this is actually going to be our integrated development environment. This is where we're going to actually write the software to drive the ESP32, which then drives the other components and that. So I kind of recorded my process for doing the install, and these links are already out there in the groups.io. I think I posted a separate one for the Visual Studio Code and another one for KiCad or KiCad. So first thing you're going to need to do is go out to python.org and go to the downloads section and download the latest version for Windows. And it's really hard. You download it, and then you're going to go over to, you're going to go over to your downloads section, and you're just going to double click on it and install it. You don't have to do anything else. Just do install now. No special stuff. You make sure you do use the admin privileges. That way it adds the path to where it is and everything, so that you don't have a problem when you try to type in Python and that.
I think there's a checkbox on that last page where you have to say add it to path now.
Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, I know. Well, see, like the disable the path limit, length limit. You do want to click that, because you can sometimes get buried down in things, but it may have changed a little bit since I recorded this a couple weeks ago. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go out to code.visualstudio.com. Now, this is a free open source code editor. And we're going to actually use this with the plugin called Platform.io that'll allow us to basically target the ESP32 and write code for it. And it is free, so it doesn't cost you anything, so you don't have to worry about that. It's also really good for web development, which we'll probably use when we start talking about building like a web interface to do cat control and that of the transmitter and that. So we're just going to go down here and we're going to download it. There is a getting started, so if you want to read through that, it's a good little introduction to it. And again, we're just going to, once we download it, we're going to double click on it and say accept the agreement. And just click next through it. Go ahead and use the default settings. And then click next. And that one does have add to path, which you do want to have, because you'll be able to go into through like if you're using a terminal window and type the word code, it'll launch it in there. And then I'm going to just turn that off on that. Now, the other thing you're going to see me do here is I'm going to add that to my startup, to my pinned apps. So I'm going to right click on it and say pin to start. And that's so that I actually have it to where I can find it, because I don't know how many people have actually used Windows 11, but it is harder than hell to find stuff. And so I always like to pin it to the start so that I can find it. And
that's because they assume you type search for everything, Jim.
I know.
That's per them on feedback.
Yeah. Now, the next thing this is going to go through is it's going to show you how to install the platform.io stuff. And so what that is actually a extension to Visual Studio Code. So what you do is you go out here and you click on the little thing that says extensions, and you type in platform, if I can type it right, and you'll see Platform.io IDE. So you go over and click on install, and then it will install not only that, but it'll also install the Microsoft C extensions, so that you'll get things like nice code help and stuff. Once it's done, all you have to do is restart Visual Code, and then it'll be there. So now what you'll see, let me get back to the end of this here.
So if when you start it up, if you have getting started with that, that means you already have it installed, right?
Yeah. Let's see if I can get here and pause that. Oh, dang it. Let me drag this down here to the end so you can see it. So, did I lose it? There. Okay, so when it comes out, when you start it back up, you'll get this get started with the platform IDE, but you also see the little bug head there on the toolbar on the left-hand side. That indicates that it's been installed, and you can click onto that and get to the platform IDE stuff as well. And this is actually what we're going to use when we actually download the program to the ESP32 to compile it, to debug it. We can actually debug the code as well. And then the other thing we're going to need is Git. And we're going to mainly just use Git to pull down the updates, because I will actually have a Git repo up there that I will put up the code. It'll have all the schematics in it. It will have all the PCB layouts. So it'll have all the KiCad and the platform IDE code there. So this way you can do a checkout and you can fork it, use it. You can even, if you want to, send updates back into it and do a pull and send a pull request. So if you come across a better way to do something and you want to provide it to everybody, you can do a pull request and we can add it. We're just going to go through the standard stuff here. I did add the check for daily updates and to add the Git Bash profile to Windows Terminal, I think, just to make it easier. And then we'll just use the default. Now, I like Vim. I'm used to Vim, but you can actually use Notepad or anything else. This is for like messages, but when you're doing check-in, normally you have to send a message when you're doing a commit, I'll walk you through how to use Vim. It's very easy, very basics. You only need to know a couple of characters. And what you get from the command line. And then I think there's also, use the bundled open SSH for security. And then we'll use the OpenSSL library. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think VS Code has a pretty slick Git interface as well. Have you tried using that, or is that not work in this case?
Oh no, it works great.
Okay.
But you do need to have Git as a base, because it actually uses Git, I think.
Correct.
Or
yeah,
it used to. So you need to at least have that. But yeah, you're right. They have a really nice thing that will actually show you changes. And you can actually push up updates. You can push up pull request and everything. And we'll kind of go through that when we're talking about it. We'll talk a little bit about branching and that. So if you guys want to submit changes, I'll show you how to create a branch and then push it up and then create a pull request.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
What were the other two? I know you're already doing install there, but was it use OpenSSL or was that native?
Yeah, use OpenSSL and use OpenSSH. And I like I said, this will all be pushed up there later on. What I'm gonna do is each one of these segments I'm gonna break out into small videos and post to a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. So you guys can actually go out to YouTube and watch it if you need to go back and refer to stuff.
Yeah, that's the only one I didn't get put in. Okay.
And then the last thing we're going to go through is KiCad or KiCad, however you want to say it. And you'll go to KiCad.org. And then we're going to go to download. Now, the community, they've got a really good community. They've got really good documentation. So I would suggest that you, if you run into problems, that's a good place to go and look. We are going to download the 64-bit version because I think Windows 11 is only 64-bit, so it's better to always use that version. And then once we download it, we'll come into downloads, double click on it to kick it off. And we're going to pretty much go through and use the defaults.
You know what it is, Jim, about that? So that came from France, and most of us are stick the frogs kind of guys, and we refuse to use the French pronunciation, so we say KiCad instead of KiCad.
Oh, is KiCad actually French pronunciation?
Yeah, it originated in France, so that's the French pronunciation is KiCad.
So here
I think
I'm
it's
actually
pronounced.
adding.
Sorry, go ahead.
Say again, Mark.
No, I was just showing I was
gonna say-
adding it to the board. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I'm just making a bad joke. I was going to say it's called Freedom CAD.
Yeah. But again, it's nice to have everything on your start thing. So when you click start, you've got it right there. When you kick it off the first time, just start it with the default settings, unless you've already got it installed and you want to import stuff. I let it anonymously report stuff, but then you're going to get this window here where you've got the schematic editor, the symbol editor, and that. And we'll get into, when we do our first one, we'll actually take and create a project and walk through that as well. So that pretty much covers everything. And like I said, I will be posting this out. I'll break these out into different sections so that you can just watch the piece that you need. If you do have questions, you can go out to groups.io, post it out there. And I'll make sure to, I get notified whenever anybody posts to the site, so, or to groups.io, so it won't go long without being replied to. Does anybody have any questions?
Is anything that you've covered not Mac friendly? I've got a MacBook. I don't know if there's going to be problems with that.
No, everything should work on the Mac. It's just that we might, because it pretty much, people develop on Mac and Linux as well. We may run into some issues when we get down to debugging, but I have a MacBook too. We can always, if you run into a problem, I can probably walk through it with you and try to figure out what's going on.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know if any of the libraries required Windows specific compilers or something like that, but it sounds like you haven't run across that.
No. As a matter of fact, everything is actually done. They do a lot of it with Python and then push it up. They do the compile with Python. And it does work on Mac. Matter of fact, if you go to platform.io, I think it is, or platformio.org, I have the link out there in the groups.io. They should have instructions on how to do the setup on Mac OS as well, if you look in the documentation.
Okay. Yeah, it seems to have installed fine. No problems,
okay.
but cool.
Let me see if I can